Imagine this situation, my friends. You're in a war with the United States of America. You have anti-aircraft systems, you have radar systems and everything that would detect a plane crossing your borders. But suddenly, bombs start falling from above. How is this possible? Didn't the radar detect anything? There's no nearby planes or nothing. But you gotta understand, you cannot detect these planes. B-2 stealth bomber, not detectable, one of the biggest bombers. It is the biggest bomber in the world and it is invisible. Can you believe that? Something so big flying up in the air and all you can see on the radar is like a little bumblebee. And suddenly huge quantities of bombs will start dropping on your positions. It can carry nuclear, it can carry everything there is, everything. That's America's B-2 bomber. We're gonna retouch on it today because I've made a video on it before, but it's such a good plane. I love the idea of it that we're gonna watch it again. The idea that something this big can be invisible. Hell, I think it's bigger than the AC-130. It is like a flying fortress, the AC-130, but this one you cannot detect. It will cut through your lines like a knife through butter. This is what I like. My friends, what I like more are the Patreons. Yes, we do have some 10 tier Patreons. I'm gonna read 10 and above. So if you're a $5 patron, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna read your name, but I'm thankful for you still. But 10 and above Patreons, we have Estel Dalbert. Estel Dalbert. Well, that is a weird. If I say it, it's not an Estonian name. Sometimes if I pronounce these names with my Estonian pronunciation, you say, this is probably an Estonian name. No, never heard about this name. Strange name, but I like you, my friend, for supporting this channel. Thank you. Secondly, we have Mark Bauer, a name I've said on this channel before. So thank you for coming back, Mr. Mark Bauer. Finally, we have Isaac with 2 A's. Now, in America, 2 A's doesn't really happen, does it? But in Estonia it does. Isaac. Isaac is a very Estonian Jewish name, but Isaac Holt. Mr. Holt. Thank you for becoming a patron. If you want your name to be read out loud and you want to support the channel, you know, if you like the videos, then become a patron, choose a tier 10 or more for your name to be featured. Thank you, my friends, for helping me be a YouTuber. Also say hi to Sami, he's editing the videos. Hi, Sami. Alright, my friends, let's see what kind of a beast this B-2 is. I gotta take the bag out of my tea. I usually do it before, but I forgot. If you're wondering, then I always drink green tea. I only drink green tea. Nobody was wondering, huh? Okay.
We know it as the B-2, but its full name is the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit. It's one of the most powerful aircraft that any country's military defense has. But what makes it any different from any other aircraft? Its role is to be a stealth bomber. So it should come as no surprise that stealth is its #1 priority. But how can an aircraft that travels at a top speed of Mach 0.95, almost the speed of sound, stay hidden so well?
How can something so big travel at almost the speed of sound? It's huge. It's not a small plane. It is very big and its carry capacity is ginormously large. The biggest of any bomber in the world, I think. And it travels at the speed of sound.
Join us in this video as we explore the unrivaled power of the B-2 bomber. It's wider than it is long. Its 52-meter wingspan trumps its 21-meter length, but remains virtually undetected. This is all thanks to its clever packaging. A radar cross-section is how detectable something is by radar, and the B-2's cross-section is just 0.1 meters square. Compared with a cargo aircraft, which can measure anywhere up to 100 meters square, this low-drag wing configuration not only helps it achieve minimal cross-section, but its range is also vastly improved. It can travel more than 11,000 kilometers, about 6,900 miles, in one go.
11,000 kilometers. So these planes will never have to be transported. Ideally, they would never have to be transported to Europe, to Japan, anywhere, because they could start from America and they would reach their destination quite fast and they would not have to refuel. Or if they would, I imagine they can be refueled in the air, so they don't have to land. The only reason they would have to be transported, for example, to Ramstein base in Germany, because if something happens in the Middle East, they can be there quicker, but it's not the fuel that's the problem. It's not the refueling, it's the time. These planes can fly everywhere. If there's a problem in Antarctica, US can send the B-2 bomber to bomb the ice bears if it wants to. This plane can go everywhere. And I do think they have some in Ramstein Air Base in Germany. And Ramstein Air Base in Germany is closer to Estonia than 6,000 miles. So if something would happen in Estonia, Russia then these B-2 bombers would come from Ramstein to save our asses. That's how it is. And I'm glad it is like that. So glad US is our allies. Otherwise I wouldn't feel safe sitting here in my apartment. I bought a new apartment. If Russians come, they would take it from me. Why buy it if they would take it? They have took everything from my father, from my grandparents, great-grandparents, the whole population of Estonia. But I can do it because I feel safe. Because Estonia and US are allies.
And can keep going thanks to its ability to be refueled mid-flight. Radar-absorbent materials like a carbon graphite composite help reduce its infrared signature by absorbing many of the radar beams that would normally detect such a plane. In fact, up to 80% of the aircraft is made of composite materials, which, as well as having radar-absorbent properties, are extremely strong and well-suited to the B-2's ultra-dynamic nature. The wings, for example, have a larger degree of flex than aeroplanes you and I may have flown on, which helps absorb energy from aerodynamic stress, making it more efficient at high speed. Using these materials also helps the longevity of this bomber aircraft. While metals and metal alloys have a shorter lifespan, composite materials can be meticulously engineered at a molecular level to extend and improve what is known as fatigue cycles. A growing number of target countries are recognizing this though, so have turned to other ways of detecting an aircraft. Infrared systems are used to detect the heat of an aircraft, not only from its engines, but the body which heats up due to air friction. The engines are buried deep in the fuselage.
I have a question. If you're in the Air Force, you know anything about it. There was a shot right here when the B-2 was flying and it was escorted by F-22s, or were they F-35s? Anyways, I would guess, I know how much this plane costs. It's almost $2 billion, maybe 1.5. It's a huge sum for just one single entity in the military. It's a huge sum. It is next to aircraft carriers, which are like 6, 7 or 10 billion, but this is a plane, a single plane. So losing this plane is very, very expensive. So I would imagine it is escorted by fighters, F-35s. But would that take away its stealth a little bit? I mean, F-35 is a stealth fighter, but still, if you have 3 planes, 2 Escort and 1 B-2, you have 3 planes, their cross-section is bigger on the radar, maybe you cannot risk taking away the stealth of the B-2. You will send it alone, so nobody would detect it. But still, what if somebody would and shoot it down? It's a huge loss. So what do? Do they escort it with F-35s, F-22s? Do they send it alone? A lone wolf? Just go in there, make hell happen and come back. I think both versions are possible, knowing how capable this plane is.
To help combat this. To keep the aircraft as prepared as possible in the event of a technical mishap, the B-2 was additionally built not to rely on GPS, but rather a range of sensors, gyroscopes and radars to help pilots recognize where they were based on landmarks. A GPS antenna would also make it more susceptible to being picked up by enemies. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were later driven into developing a new type of GPS, known as M-code, which are more reliable, responsive and destined only for use by the military. This represents a significant milestone in navigation technology. It may be a powerful aircraft, but it doesn't just need to be stealth.
Right, M-code. Never heard of it. I'm quite sure many of you have never heard of it, but this is probably the thing that makes a huge difference on this plane. It doesn't use GPS, it uses M-code. Used only by the military and probably only by the US military at this point. They have their own satellites, military satellites, and it's a GPS that doesn't, you know, give you out to enemies. It's a thing we don't know about, because it's boring. Nobody wants to hear about this new code, but this is what makes the difference about this plane. It doesn't need to rely on GPS. It has its own M-code. Now these small things are what make American military tech so much ahead from the rest of the world. Do you know about M-code? Open it up to me in the comments. I don't know what it is. Open it up to me in the comments, please.
Stealthy. Its primary purpose is to carry and fire ammunition in target countries. With a width that is half the length of a football field, you may think it can carry a lot. Double this and add some more. That's how much the B-2 can store. 2 internal bays have an official limit of 18 tons, but it's likely that it could carry even more if needed. Its armament includes 80 500-pound class bombs, 36 750-pound class bombs, 16 2,000-pound class bombs, and 16 nuclear bombs, such as the...
Are you hearing this? What we're hearing right now is, oh, just a little bit of bombs. No, this firepower can take down cities, not military bases, not villages, not strong points, cities. We're talking 16 nuclear war warheads. If you take these out, we still have 36, what was it, 750 pound bombs, 36, and there was 2,000 pound bombs. All of them combined, with this one plane, you will take down a city.
The B-61 or B-83, as well as a handful of other satellite-driven missiles and penetrators. An update in June 2007, a decade after it was first conceived, the B-2 was awarded a contract to integrate 2 massive ordnance penetrator or MOP weapons. This GPS-guided weapon carries 5,300 pounds of explosive material and is designed to target even the most protected enemy compounds. Its manufacturers say that this is the most survivable aircraft in the world and combines 3 things that no other rival could: long range, stealth, and the ability to carry an extraordinarily heavy payload. All of this comes at a cost though. Each supposedly game-changing aircraft cost $737 million in 1997. That's about $1.2 billion adjusted for today's currency. This is affordable though compared to the cost incurred to develop the B-2, including testing and deployment. The figure is placed at $2.13 billion per aircraft for this, around $3.5 billion in today's money. Initially, 132 examples were commissioned, but this was later dropped to 75. After the Soviet Union had dissolved in the 1990s, only 20 were acquired, as set out under the George H.W. Bush administration.
Only 20? We're talking about a very small number of planes, and each of them so expensive. This is not a mass-produced weapon. This is a exceptional... You produce tanks. You produce tens of thousands of them, maybe not tens of thousands of Abrams tanks, but Russia's tanks, there are 42,000 tanks in Russia, something like that. I mean, most of them not capable for battle and they are nothing compared to Abrams, but still look at the numbers. These planes, you don't need thousands, you don't need hundreds. One plane can take down a city. You have 20 planes, you can take down a nation. This is what the US has right now, I think. 20, you don't need more. This is how powerful it is.
Although a final 21st aircraft was given the go-ahead to be converted from a prototype. All 21 examples are still in operation, and the US plans to keep them until 2032, retiring them at an age of over 30 years old. Some of the cost went into acquiring an old Ford plant in Pico Rivera, California, which had to be rebuilt to be able to house the aircraft's extensive wingspan. The early stages of the program were kept so undercover that the staff would often be required to work out of uniform to avoid suspicion, and would even be subject to routine polygraph or lie detector tests. Much of the company's procurement would be placed through front companies so that the assembly of the B-2 would be kept secret. Purchasing them is one thing. Keeping on top of the world's most impressive stealth bomber is another. It's estimated that each hour of flight requires 119 hours in maintenance. That's twice what is required by the B-1B and B-52. In 2010, it was
almost 120 hours of service needed on this plane for 1 hour of flight. So if it makes a bombing raid, taking down some cities, some nations, you know, it comes back. It needs weeks of maintenance. Weeks, because it has been, you know, flying 6,000-7,000 kilometers, 6,000 miles perhaps, let's say its maximum capacity flight. It comes back. How many hours does it fly that? Many hours. You multiply that by 120, you get the hours you need to maintain this plane. Yeah, but this was the same in SR-71 Blackbird. It is the same. I remember the problem with this plane was it was leaking fuel from everywhere. The whole plane was a fuel tank. It needed so much fuel to go Mach 3 that every empty space on that plane was filled with fuel. It was a flying fuel tank. But due to air friction, the plane materials started, you know, contracting and expanding, and the fuel started leaking and all of that stuff. Every time it came back, it needed a lot of work to get back up there again. But they did it. They do it. That's why it's so expensive to maintain, because you just have to fix it every time it comes back. Imagine you having a car. Every time you drive it, you gotta take it to the mechanic. You gotta have a lot of money, and you gotta need that car very much to keep it. And I think US really wants to keep this plane. Please do. Please don't retire it. We in Estonia, we need it.
Said that each hour of flight cost $135,000 to the US taxpayer. We've covered every aspect of the B-2, from its impressive stealth to its staggering firepower. But what's it like to be inside one? Pilots are trained daily. which means they are able to competently fly the aircraft whenever a mission requires them to. The trainee and the instructor occupy the aircraft's 2 seats, both of which have access to the stick. With hands-on at all times, the instructor can intercept at any point. Protocol says that the person who takes over should say, "I have the aircraft," which is met with the other person saying, "Roger, you have the aircraft." Like most commercial aircraft, this too has autopilot, which is used to keep things on track like its altitude. Space inside is limited to the 2 seats and a narrow passage behind them, which provides just enough space for a blow-up mattress. There is no bedroom or fridge.
Blow-up mattress, of course. I didn't think about this, but if you are flying 5,000, 6,000 miles, it takes time. If you're flying a $2 billion plane and you're tired, you make mistakes, you cannot allow these mistakes to cost you the plane. You gotta sleep to not make mistakes flying this plane. You cannot allow any mistakes, and for that you need your sleep. So I guess they will be sleeping on the most expensive bomber in the world. And nobody will know because it is stealth. Ha! I like that.
The duo are expected to carry non-perishable food items. And despite the ultra-high-tech cockpit, the toilet is, less so, to put it politely. It comprises a stainless steel bowl in the space behind the seats, completely uncovered. As if flying such a large aircraft isn't enough, pilots should be aware of both air attacks and more secretive digital attacks, as well as preparing weapons and keeping tabs on information like hydraulics, electronics, and environmental conditions on the 8 screens that make up the majority of the cockpit. We're told that the biggest challenge is managing all of this at the same time, in an aircraft that's travelling at almost the speed of sound. Whether you agree with military activity or not, there's no denying that the B-2 bomber is a ridiculously advanced, high-tech piece of engineering that combines some astonishing facts. A high top speed and the power to destroy...
You have 8 screens in your cockpit. You have to monitor all of them at the same time, and at the same time you are on your mission. You got worries going on. This also adds tension. And then on top of all of that, you're tired and you gotta go and take a leak, or gotta go on number 2. Bathroom is right behind your seat, but still, I would imagine it goes something like this. You have the aircraft. Roger, I have the aircraft. I'm gonna take a shit. You go and take a shit. And then so it's just like, we gotta lose the bombs. We are being attacked. Or so, a MiG is following us. And you're like, shit, I gotta wipe fast. I'm coming back. Taking over the aircraft. We gotta lose the MiG. My friends, I like this plane. I like this plane a lot. I doubt I will ever have a chance to fly one of those just fun pleasure ride. Never gonna happen probably, but it is cool. And I'm so glad we in Estonia can rely upon its help if something would happen on our border. If Russia goes crazy, if Putin is, cuckoo and attacks, this B-2 will put him back in his place. Go back to Moscow, Mr. Putin. We have the B-2 on our side. So thank you to all of you Americans for just being there, for existing, and for protecting a small nation like Estonia. I don't know where we would be without you. Thank you. If you like my videos, my friends, go and get the Estonian YouTuber Cup and the Estonian Soldier hat, or become a Patreon. Both links are in the description below. And as always, my friends, until my next video, stay cool and bye bye.